All right, back again. Another Wash Up Walk-Ons podcast. This one, we've brought on a manager before. We brought on Colin Fisher. We have not brought on somebody of Brock's stature yet. Brock, I want to say we were the same class.
I think we were. Yeah.
So, and correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Brock Baumert joins the show tonight.
Yep, that's it.
Brock
Nailed
and
it.
Brock came into the University of Iowa the same year, 2013. In Iowa City as the boys on the pod did. And I'm interested to sort of learn the story of your way into the program, and where that originates all the way back to like you and your sports background. But Brock has gone from football manager to I think football operations inside the complex in Iowa City. Couple years interning with the Kansas City Chiefs to now he's got some fucking fancy title with the Chiefs now, like director of team ops or something like that.
That's it.
Football operations or something. So has risen the ranks. Very cool adjacent side to what we did as players. Brock can speak to it a little more, but there's so much stuff that just doesn't get done unless the managers are there.
Someone's got to
And
do it, right?
man, you guys deserve so much more credit than you get. And I know KF was always really good about making sure people knew how important you guys were. I imagine it's not like that in all places. Because that's a bit of a job that's similar to the specialists where you can take a lot of shit, and but the jobs are important. And so really just first of all, super cool to see you ascend to where you're at now, sitting with the Chiefs merch on, the Chiefs helmet in the back. Obviously, the success that Kansas City's organization has had over the past decade. This is really hurting Grant's heart, by the way. Big time Denver Broncos
fan. You guys ruined my life.
Hey,
okay.
Listen, everyone's got a team.
I'm happy you're here, but your team ruins my life. But I'm happy you're here.
Everyone's got a team, and I totally respect that.
And so I'd love to just take it all the way back to you growing up as a kid. I imagine you played football.
I did, yeah, just youth sports to start. So I was actually born in Kansas City, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
So I was born here, and then when I was 6 years old, my dad took a job at the University of Iowa. So that's why we moved from Kansas City up to Iowa City. So 6-year-old Brock moves up to Iowa City. So my dad actually took a job at the student health clinic at the university. And then one of his other things that he did was he was the acting team physician for the football program.
Oh, shit.
So we were around, growing up for me, like from 6 years old on, like I lived and died by Iowa football. As a young kid, was passionate about football, right? But it also gave me this unique perspective of being not heavily involved with the football program, but, my dad was in and out of the football facility, and, sometimes I would be, around there or, go to the spring games or just season tickets, or even like traveling on the bowl games, for example.
Yeah.
So was always around Iowa football. And quite honestly, because of that, I didn't know any differently. I didn't know how other programs operated, but I don't think I really understood the magnitude of the program itself and like how well run it is, the culture. I mean, I obviously kind of understood it just from like the style of play, like even just watching teams growing up, but didn't really understand that, all that well, but, played football through high school and really at the end of the day, I had a decision to make. It was either go try to play, at a small school or find some kind of way to, to be around big time college athletics. And, just my dad having the experience that he did, it's kind of a weird situation, but you obviously know the director of football operations recently retired.
Yeah, we just shouted. Yeah, we just shouted out Fed on the last episode, man. Crazy.
Yep. Congratulations to Fed. Really happy for him.
He was there long before either of you and I got there as college students.
So Fed was, you may or may not know this, but he was previously an athletic trainer for the
Yes.
program
Yep.
before he became the director of football operations. So he actually worked, relatively closely with my dad.
Yeah.
And so he actually kind of knew me as a kid growing up when he joined the program. And
So you had the in.
I had a little bit of a tie. And, I credit my dad for that. Obviously, without his experience, I wouldn't have had, that tie in at all. But I decided instead of going to play small, at a small school that, I really wanted to stick around in like Iowa. Like I said, it was in my blood, at that
Yeah.
point, just growing up from 6 years old all the way through. So really, I reached out to Fed and just kind of expressed my interest when my dad brought to my attention the possibility, the idea of being a manager. And, I, like most people, probably, didn't really understand what I was getting myself into.
Oh, you had no idea. I guarantee.
I had no idea. But my dad was like, hey, like, if you want to come in, you want to work, like, be a part of the program, like, you never know, like, what opportunities would present themselves if you start that path. So that's when I reached out to Fed and, got an interview with him and, was fortunate enough, he brought me on, and, that's kind of where it goes from there. But
Yeah, this is going to be more than people understand a cool episode for me. I honestly wish Drake and Kevin were here. I hope they listen to this one because, as I mentioned, you guys are such an integral part of the program. I'm talking like this operation of not quite 200, but when you start to add medical staff and trainers and managers and support staff, especially now as more and more coaches and GAs and like it's close to 200 people in that building. It's going to be a little shorter after they just cut 30 roster spots off
that's right.
the deal. But if every single person isn't doing their job, like it really isn't a smooth operation, and the managers are just as much a part of that. And when you're a player, you don't have the time to, for lack of a better way to describe it, like care about the ins and outs of the managers' lives. You just know how they fit into your crazy Division I student athlete life. Like, they help me. This is how they help in drill. This is how they help in team period. I see them setting stuff up before practice. They're taking stuff down. But there is just like this, like, it is a full-time gig. You guys are so much so that I'm pretty sure, and we can get into this, I'm pretty sure there's like stipend or even like scholarship money given at some point to some of the managers, right?
There is. It's a gradual thing, so it's based on tenure, how long you're around the program, but it definitely did help, and
Sure.
with the number of hours that we were putting in, it was quite honestly, it'd be hard to pick up another job. Now,
Yeah.
with that said, I did do that. I worked at the Vine in Coralville, actually.
You did?
Yeah, it was mostly during the
Wow.
summertime.
Okay.
During fall
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
spring, like, I wanted to be focused on football with everything that was going on, try to soak up that experience. But
The Vine,
summertime,
man.
like, managers would stick around and, we'd do little side gigs, around the building and projects and whatnot. And, like, it was a cool deal. But
Dude, the Vine's all time.
yeah.
Funny enough, I just this weekend saw some guy. Where was I? I just this weekend saw some guy wearing a t-shirt, a Vine, what is it? Something in
Tavern.
Tavern and Eatery, like t-shirt in Des Moines.
Really?
So that's funny. How does there's obviously not everybody has the connection that you did. Like, your dad was around the program. And I see why. Like, it was probably a hard decision, but an easy decision in the end to stay and try and pursue the manager path. Because like 6 years old all the way up, it would have been hard to imagine for you probably like going away from the Iowa football program and being in some other program, especially pling on a lower level. But not everybody has that sort of in that you did, especially knowing Fed. How does a normal student get into I know there's like an interview process, and you guys like you bring them in the spring and kind of like run them through the fire. And I think I may be wrong. They can't be. It would be the spring of their freshman year, so they couldn't even be a true manager until maybe that summer or their second sophomore year. Can you explain the process of that?
Yeah. So it starts with truly people reaching out with interest. First and foremost, I don't believe that it's posted anywhere. At least, when I was there, it wasn't. But as you can imagine, there's enough interest, amongst people that are aware of
Yeah.
the positions, whether it be through a coach or, even like players that have gone through or, anyone else that's on the support staff. People end up hearing about the positions and have a genuine curiosity. I mean, really like I did, like I wanted to stick around, college football. And so, you kind of figure out, who may be, best to reach out to based on whatever interest
Some of
like
them
you
probably just
have
see you guys
as
running
it
around
relates
on
to
game day
football.
in the fall, and they're like, "Hey, how do I become one of
Yeah.
those guys?"
Yeah, ball boys on the sideline or like helping, with warm-ups before the game or like whatever. Like there is a little bit of attention there. But primarily it's people reaching out with interest to either, Ben Hansen, right? Or Paul Federici, at the time. Some people would, I mean, literally as students on campus, like we'd strike up conversations with people and be like, dude, that sounds like a incredible gig. Like,
Yeah.
where do I sign up?
And then you just like relay
Um,
them to those guys.
and then yeah, exactly right. So I connect them and then obviously they submit a resume. And, I think the part that was cool was, even as time went by when I was with the program, Fed and Ben really instilled a lot of trust in myself. And then also even like Andrew Schnebelin,
Yeah. Who's working
some
with
of
you
the
now,
older
right?
managers. Who is now, yes, we are working in tandem. We run the football
That's
operations department here
crazy,
in Kansas
man.
City. I don't know who put us in charge,
Do you
but
ever look at
it
each
was
other and you're like, "Bro, like, how is this work?"
yeah, like we're in charge of getting the Kansas City Chiefs to Sao Paulo, Brazil in week 1. Like what? Like
That's
who put us there?
absurd, bro.
Yeah. So, but no, yeah. Shout out to Andrew, or better known as
Schneiby.
Schneebs,
Yeah.
around the facility. So, but yeah, so then they submit their resumes and then, but like I said, like Fed and Ben really they were like, hey, like you guys are a part of this group. Like you guys know what you're looking for in a group. And like, you guys conduct the interviews. Like you tell us, who would be a good fit, who wouldn't. And so that's where we developed this observational period of bringing guys in and like seeing what, what really,
Yeah.
how they work. I think that's to me the biggest thing, when you're talking about bringing guys in that you work with for, it could be 70 hours a week or, whatever it may be. Like you're putting a significant amount of time in together. It's like you don't want to bring someone in that crushed an interview, but they're not holding up their end of the deal, right? So I thought it was a pretty good process to see people come in and like really get a feel for, also understanding what the position involves.
That's a big
You
one.
get to see what that, right? And so you get to really see these, job responsibilities that you're like, wait, the
Yeah,
managers do that?
well, because I get this
And
feeling
so
that
it's
a
like,
lot of
well,
people are like, "Damn, that looks cool. I'd love to be out there on game day, get some free gear." And then
yes,
they kinda like they dabble themselves into the process and they're like, "Oh shit, I have to be out there like 45 minutes early before
yeah,
practice every day." The one
yeah,
period of time where I think like you guys are run absolutely rampant is camp. It's it's
definitely.
insane. Like, and so, um, yeah, like realizing that amount of work, I think is probably eye-opening to some people.
Yeah, and it wasn't uncommon for guys to go through that spring and be like, this is
Yeah.
not what I thought it was. Like, I'm gonna go find another gig that's gonna pay me better
Yeah.
probably and less hours, fewer hours. So, which is it's good. It was all about finding the right fit, in that group. But I think when it came down to it, like we had a great group of guys in just the time that I was there, and we still are close to this day, obviously, just from going through what we did
I
together.
was gonna say
But
you guys kind of become
it
your
was
own
awesome.
frat. Like it's your own. That's the squad. Once you're a part of the squad, that's the squad. You're spending the most time with them. Um, it's just like
Yep.
the players. Like the players same thing. You don't want to bring guys in who are not going to mesh well with the chemistry of the team. They're not going to be a locker
Yep.
room guy. They're going to be the cancer of the group. It's the same thing. And I echo what you said during our time. And again, just from the specialist perspective, which is maybe a little bit more keyed into some of the accessory happenings on the team outside of some other positions that are got a little bit more to do during practice. But like I can't remember a single bad dude on the
Yeah.
on the manager squad. I really can't. Like going like
Yeah.
Tom, Colin, like just going down the list all the way from the guys who were there
Yeah.
when we came in to the guys when we left. Just a bunch of great dudes.
I think it was just when we were looking at who we were going to bring into the group, it was just like, who's willing to work? And typically the individuals that were willing to work, they separated themselves somehow, some way. And it wasn't even just the ability to work, but it was the ability to like enjoy the process of working. Because like we're doing responsibilities that like it's not
No, it
glorious. Like,
sucks.
yeah, maybe there are some things. Yeah, but but at the end of the day, it's like, can you find, purpose and enjoyment in those responsibilities? And I think that we found the right guys for that. And it was
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
trying to
awesome.
think of
We had a whole group of guys that were
Flood.
like-minded in that one.
Flood, man. I can still
Justin
hear
Flood.
Flood's voice. I think he ended up becoming like a GA, didn't he? Didn't he get like
Yeah, I can't recall where he is currently, but he was helping with
God,
special teams, and then I think made it to the defensive
unreal,
side of the
man.
ball elsewhere. But yeah,
So you get in there, you're one of the
yep,
younger guys. Eventually, you become one of the older guys, and you're given that
yep,
responsibility. As you're working your way through college. By the way, I remember sitting like freshman year in like a physical activity and sport class,
I remember that
um,
too.
with
Yep,
you. God, I actually went to that class. That was back when I went to classes. But yeah, so this literally goes all the way back to 2013. Just getting flashback memories of that. Anyway, you're going through college. You're now a sophomore, a junior. What are the aspirations professionally for you? Like, are you starting to see? Because I'm
yeah,
sure there's guys that have been in the position you're at. There's value in doing that work. Like,
mhm,
this maybe is exaggerating hyperbole, but like embracing the suck of that job. Very similar to like
yep,
the interns that end up interning on the strength staff. You're getting up at 3 a.m. to go set up the weight room and the stuff, and you're not getting paid, right? But the value in that is that the strength staff under Doyle, now under Braithwaite, there's this reputation that those guys have where if you're an intern for them and they now become a reference for you professionally, that can absolutely vault your career in strength conditioning. I have to imagine there's some level of that where, um, you know, you put in your time, you prove that you can do it. People in that industry sort of know what it takes to be a manager for 2, 3, 4 years. And then when you get towards the end of and you start to put that on your resume, they're like, okay, now I know a little bit about this guy. When you were a junior,
mhm.
senior, it's 20, I guess you would have graduated in 2016.
That was undergrad, yeah, and I
Okay,
did
so you
grad
did grad
school
school
at Iowa.
because you stuck
Yep,
around as like a full-time
mhm.
position for a year, didn't you?
It was like a
Okay.
GA role.
So
Yeah.
what is your thought process going from a 19-year-old kid who's like, I'm just going to be a manager to how do I turn this into my career? What do I, because what
Yeah.
I imagine was your major sports rec management?
Yeah, so I was a dual major, so I did
Okay.
business administration and sport management. I always wanted to have that business,
Sure.
education, just to have something else aside
Yeah.
from sports. It's a really
Oh
volatile,
yeah.
Yeah.
industry. So I didn't want to, put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. But I do think that that also helped me too at the same time, just having that business, education, during
Sure.
that time too. Um, but yeah, no, I think to your point, you know, I'm biased because obviously I was a manager, right? So I understood what that role
Yeah.
involves. Um, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't look at that experience on other people's resumes and like, understood that, what they've kind of gone through. Now, every program operates differently to a certain extent, but for me, I see that experience of like, oh, this person's
Yeah.
not afraid to work. Like this person's willing to do those dirty jobs and like, you know, and so even for me, as I'm bringing in like a training camp intern, for example, or a seasonal intern, I have weighed that experience as
Sure.
a manager accordingly. And I think that, even as a training camp intern here in Kansas City, like, you're going to be asked to do a lot of those
Yeah.
grunt jobs. And like for those managers, they've lived that. It's not anything unfamiliar. And then you build on top
And
of
you
that.
and you
So
did that,
I've,
right? You
yeah,
you interned for 2
yes.
summers?
Yeah, so that was 17 and 18. So when I started grad school, that was kind of around that time where I'm like, I understand kind of how we do things, relatively speaking,
Yep.
the Iowa way. Um, but I wanted to be able to go out and get more experience and see
Yep.
something different. So Fed was gracious enough to allow me to leave for an entire month and, come to Kansas City. And
oh no, what just happened? Oh no, where'd he go? All right,
Where'd he
listeners,
go?
I don't know. 20 minutes in, I'll make sure to I'll make sure to cut this. That hasn't happened in a long time.
I didn't press anything. Did you?
I didn't press a single thing. I don't know if his internet just cut out. I mean, it's rare that we just completely lose somebody. So if you're watching on
It's going
YouTube,
great. Thanks, Brock. Sorry, Brock.
What an episode with Brock. Perfect timing.
Oh, good.
What's up, buddy?
Is this getting cut? Do you have your headphones on?
Sorry, hold on, Grant.
Am I supposed to be doing a soliloquy right now? I'm just gonna assume this is getting cut.
Bye. Ken Diesel. Missing daddy on bedtime right now. The YouTube version of this is absolutely elite. By the way, if you need lawn care in the Des Moines metro,
This isn't getting cut. We're just leaving this in,
dude. The YouTube is too hard to cut. Okay. I don't have a video editor, and so the YouTube is way too difficult to like go in and cut stuff like this. So this is just bonus content for the tubes. I mean, he's not even
Brock.
Hope he jumps back in here.
I wonder if his laptop die or
imagine it looked like he was in his office. So I have to imagine he was on a.
Do you have can you call him? Or?
I don't have his number. It was communicating through. I can DM him. Oh, he just. Oh.
Talk about something else. And suddenly we have to do the draft of college logos now.
So my first pick is the Tulane Green Wave.
Okay, my pick is Western Kentucky. Oh, there he is. Okay. There he is.
Brock, I don't know what happened. Sometimes we get a disconnect and like the person freezes. Sometimes like we can't hear them. Never using this platform has someone just got completely booted. Huh. So let me try and bring us back to hopefully the YouTube people. The audio people never know that happened. The YouTube people got an extra show. Where were we? Oh, Fed was gracious enough to give you that month in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is not like that has to be a pretty sought after opportunity as well from kids at the time. Yeah. In the position that that you were in all over the country, right? There's managers from Alabama and Boston College and USC that are all like, well, maybe I can get something at the next level doing something around this kind of work. And so there's probably, I mean, how many applications come in to be because it's not like the Kansas City Chiefs can just accept 120 interns in a summer.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of applications that come in. I got to sort through those things now. But I think the other thing too, so you have managers, all across. Some of them want to get an operation, some of them don't, right?
Right.
But then you also have
this is sorry, people are going to be like, Kluber, shut the fuck up. But this was going back to my question. Did you have this like I do want to get into operations desire? When did that start?
Yeah. So I think the unique thing about the manager position at Iowa is that it directly reports to the director of football operations.
Yep.
Right. So in most places, it's the equipment manager that they're overseen by.
Oh, so like Greg.
So it's a little, it's a little different in that sense, but I think it gave me a very unique perspective, working with Fed and kind of understanding what he was being involved with, from an operational standpoint. So that kind of piqued my interest a little bit of like seeing what Ben and Fed were involved in, and then exploring that, I can't speak highly enough about Ben and Fed's approach to just even my genuine curiosity towards operations in general. Always willing, to have me, even if it's just sitting in the corner of their office, just hearing the conversations, understanding what they were involved with. I mean, it kind of snowballed from there. And so that's where, I was really able to understand a little better what operations entailed. And that's when, to me, when I saw that for myself, that's when it kind of clicked in my mind of like, I could really see myself assuming a role within operations. Now, that's easier said than done, obviously. Like you kind of hit on, like it is extremely competitive. And obviously there are a lot more opportunities at the collegiate level than they are professional. So to me, there was some good fortune involved.
Always
with,
is.
Yeah,
Always
with the
is.
opportunity in Kansas City. I got to give a shout out to Matt Aponte. So we actually were college roommates, but he knew I wanted to get in operations, and Matt actually had done a internship in operations for who was my boss, who eventually hired me in Kansas City. Mitch Reynolds was his name. So Matt knew Mitch, and on one of our bye weeks during the year, I think it was 2016, Matt and I went over and we drove over to Indianapolis. The Chiefs were playing the Colts, and he was able to connect put a meeting together with Matt wanted to catch up with Mitch, obviously, too, but that's when I first met Mitch and just stayed in touch with him. He kind of knew what I was doing at the University of Iowa, too, knew that I was interested in operations, and then season finished up for them in 2016. And, Mitch called me and said, how does the training camp internship sound? And I said, let me check with Fed. And, like I said, Fed gave me the green light and kind of went from there. But
the adult life I still feel like I'm a kid and we're back in Iowa City still. It's 2014, but in reality, I'm not. And the adult life and professional life it's so cliche, but it is so true. It's all about who you know.
It is.
I don't think you have to know anything. You just need to know people.
You do.
It's crazy.
There's part of the opportunity to start is it comes down to networking. And I kind of hit on this briefly, but to me, even when I'm looking at bringing someone else on, it's who can I trust?
Yeah.
Who can I trust to come in and do this job well and know that they're going to do, what is needed of the role, and they're not going to complain about it. They're not going to, throw any other wrinkles into that. So to me, you find who you can trust by other people that you can trust. Right. So that's where
you got to have something that it's the same game that every single college student with a resume is trying to play. Like, you have to separate yourself somehow.
Yeah.
And more often than not, that separation comes from a personal contact. Like, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, if you can vouch for him. Otherwise, it's just a faceless name on a paper. And you're like, I don't know. What's the difference between him and the next guy?
Yeah.
Crazy. So you got that internship. Obviously, you get there in 17 and 18, those summers, and you're like, you're working for them full time now. So it was a thing where you're like, yeah, this is what I'd like to do.
Yeah, really, like I said, it started as like trying to see something different. Now, obviously, it's not just seeing something different. Like, I was going to work for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I kind of understood the magnitude of that. And they were a great team even at that time too. So
I was gonna say, what years have they won the Super Bowl?
So we won in 19. That was my first full-time year.
Okay.
And
seems to be a correlation.
Yeah. Not going to say. No, but, and then we won, it was the 22 season and 23 season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, what are the, so, okay, we're going to go to you getting the full-time gig opportunity, but I want to circle back and kind of put a cap on your time in Iowa City as a manager, student, living the life of just a college kid. What are your favorite memories of Iowa football? Favorite games? Because you're on the field, like you're down there, you're in the same environment. You have for all intents and purposes, you and I were the same guy. We're the same person on game day. You were working harder than me on game day. So what are your favorite memories from our, I guess 4 years, 5 years? And it's not just games, but like also just Iowa City. Like what are the first things that come to mind?
Yeah, I think the first things that come to mind to me, it's being around the guys, right? Like even just like in our, realm with the other managers, like those are my favorite core memories, is just being with those guys and like going to work, even like on Sundays after games, right? We're scrubbing helmets, we're re-decaling the helmets, we're, shining them up, like, but we're watching NFL, on the TV while we're doing it. We're all talking like, how's everyone's, Saturday night, or like, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of time like that where we're just sitting around talking, just enjoying being with each other and, putting a little work in at the same time too. So I think that's where it kind of starts. And then I think, as it relates to football specifically, any walk-off win, right? I think the Michigan game, I think that's a big one, 2016.
It was decent. Yeah,
it was a pretty decent one. Yeah. Any big play that Tyler Kluver made. I mean, those are
there's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of big plays. Really, the only one was from that Michigan game, and then also the Ohio State game. That was it.
No doubt. No,
I have to imagine, and this goes back to you guys accepting people into the managers and kind of determining who you want to come in. Got to have athletes. Got to have athletes because we need speed out there for the toolbox game.
You're absolutely right. There had to be some kind of, I mean, it wasn't the end all be all, but I mean, it was definitely a consideration. We were talking about building out a roster now.
Yeah.
I mean, we need a quarterback. We need receivers. We need DBs. We need guys that can make plays out there.
Legitimate considerations, like all the way down to when we went in 21, we were talking before we clicked on the record button. One of those kids was like a legitimate threat on the outside. And I'm like, me and Kevin are sitting there like, holy fuck, get this guy some pads. Yeah. And not kidding. Like this, and then you come to find out, like you look and the former year, I think his name was Cade or something. He's like tearing up Iowa football. Yeah. He's like legitimate, could have gone like D2 if he wanted to. And he's now one of our managers. That's the pool of guys we're trying to pull from for the Iowa managers right there. We need guys with hands, guys who can go up and win 50-50 balls. And I got to imagine a quarterback. I mean, that's kind of where you have to start. Yeah. So all to say that the toolbox and practicing for that each year was a big, very fun part of what you guys did.
It was. We had to set time aside. We had to get out there. We had to install the offense, make sure we knew what we were doing on the defensive side of the ball. We may or may not have gotten some young coaches involved, in that process. Just
it's a dirty game, the toolbox tradition. I mean, at some point, Wisconsin's got like GAs who just finished up playing, and I've heard the stories and the lore of the toolbox game go back many years.
Yeah, there was a guy that I think was a former running back from Northern Illinois, somehow made his way onto the roster against the Iowa managers. Like, I don't know how that happens. I don't know who's checking him at the door, but I think we could definitely take advantage of, if we're throwing former players into the mix. I mean, I guess we can reevaluate our roster, but I don't know.
Some unwritten rules that go down there. Man, and you guys laid it. I mean, I know we've tried to shed some light on it. I know we went and covered it and had an event there in 21, and what we want to do moving forward, if it works out, it's just Kevin and I have like legit adult lives now with responsibilities. But if we can ever make it work, we want to live stream and broadcast Kevin and I, because one of the things about the toolbox game is you guys put so much effort into it, and like your friends and family come and watch. Yeah. But like it's open. It's open to the public. But like you guys don't get as many people there as you should, because it's just not like advertised. Yeah. And I think when we advertised that we were going to be there and we kind of did our event, that was like maybe the most people that had ever been there back in 21. And so many people were like, I'm so glad you guys talked about this on the podcast. We were always in town the night before, and this was such a fun thing to kind of make as part of the weekend. So it fucking really cool thing that you guys get to do. And you used to have another, like, didn't you guys used to play Nebraska and Iowa State too?
Yeah. I'm not calling any programs out by any means, but, we couldn't find opponents anymore. That was, we couldn't reach an agreement, I guess, on terms.
Well, and there was injuries was a big part of it too.
There were injuries involved. There always are, everyone knows the deal walking into this thing. We're modern day gladiators.
It's a blood
field against.
Grant, you have no idea. It's every year.
I saw it was live stream last year. I watched it.
Dude,
intense.
every year there's an ACL that goes.
Yeah. And it's either in prep or during the game. It's one of the two. We don't know which one it's going to be, but when we make it to the game and it's unscathed, we're like, all right, well.
How would you explain to KF that you tore your meniscus playing the toolbox game?
Oh, KF respects that.
He does respect that game.
Okay.
I will say
I
that.
respect it. Okay.
Yeah.
Intern 17, 18, when do you get the call, or like how does it serendipitously fall into your lap that like, oh my God, now the position that I kind of I'm interested in, there's now like a role at the place I interned?
Yeah.
Or were you so great that Kansas City was like, we're just going to create a spot for this guy? Like how did that work?
No, so I mean, like I said, luck is certainly involved in this too, and that definitely applies to the timing as well. So I finished up with my master's in December of 18.
Yep.
And I actually got the call in like late January. So there were maybe just a couple of weeks where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I was talking with other schools, exploring the college side, definitely wanted to be professional just based on my experience in the previous years. But he called me and said, hey, position's going to be open. Like, I want to bring you on. I was like, dude, you just tell me when I need to be there.
Yeah.
And we'll get this thing rolling. So
is that a call you get off of and you're like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. How did this just fall? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. So I was actually sitting at Hamburg Inn, which brings just great nostalgia to that place.
Now hold on, Brock, because
close friends.
Just had Kading on the podcast on 600. You're like 613.
Okay.
And the walk-ons and Hamburg are going to have a little partnership later on this fall. So
no free shout outs, but
it won't be free because they're going to pay for it. But yeah, big fans of the Hamburg. So brings back good memories for us as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was literally sitting there and then got the call. And like, when I got off, I'm like, wow, like it's really happening. Like I had no idea where I was going to be. I could have been coast to coast. I could have been anywhere else in the country. Would have been happy, at least just getting an opportunity to continue, this run of being in operations, but was obviously fired up. And
I mean, when you're in that spot, I mean, you're just like, will anybody pay me money? I need money. I need an income of anything, right? And then for it to be literally at the place you've interned in the position you're looking to get. And what was the initial position? Like assistant,
football operations assistant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're like, wow, I'm doing it.
It's
amazing.
It's crazy to think about, just to look back. And then obviously you look at it, and you look at the run that we've been on since I've been on full time. And it's just, I couldn't have asked to be in a better place. I can't speak highly enough of the leadership here in this organization. Like, and it's crazy to me that I went from a place, you want to talk about, a culture like Iowa football and, the leadership of Coach Ferentz and, everyone else that's involved with the program there. And then to walk into Kansas City and, Coach Reed is here, our president, Mark Donovan, even ownership, Clark Hunt, like I couldn't ask to be in a better position. And I just, I feel so fortunate every single day that I've got great examples of leadership. And, I try to take something from everyone and every opportunity. And it's definitely one that I don't take for granted by any means.
I was going to say, what are this, like, you start working full time. This is now your day-to-day gig. Is it pretty obvious, like right away, like the similarities between Iowa, what are some of the differences? What are the similarities? Because it's not the exact same thing. It's professional versus college. So there's different dynamics, but did it feel like, wow, like Iowa really prepared me for this?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely NFL components to the way things operate, with Iowa football. So I think I kind of felt that a little bit. Obviously it's pretty rigid from, the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, here with the NFL versus just like even NCAA rules, for example, which seem to be, pretty fluid for the most part.
There are none anymore. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the CBA is set, and there may be small tweaks made to it, but it's a 10-year agreement. So there's quite a bit of consistency in that too.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the culture between Iowa and Kansas City, I think both Coach Reed and Coach Ferentz do a phenomenal job of just like keeping the main thing, and just like eliminating any distraction that's going to infiltrate, the locker room or, throw anyone off in the program or organization. Like they just don't tolerate it.
Yeah.
And, they find a way to kind of handle it and handle it swiftly so that it's not, something that is just continuing to linger and affecting people that are inside the organization or the program.
When you start the position, what are the like immediately? What are your job responsibilities? Like, what does that even look like on a day to day when you first got in there?
Yeah, so the department itself, the football operations department, was my boss, Mitch Reynolds, and myself. So it was literally just us two.
Wow.
And so really came in to like help him. Like, you tell me what is needed of me, and I'll do everything I can. And that was anything from on-field responsibilities like during practice, to helping coordinate travel, creating schedules and itineraries. Travel coordinating is a big piece of what we do, just in general, especially during the season, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that comes with that. But I felt like, Mitch was so good of just being like an open book.
Yeah.
Well, of literally just like, hey, you come in whenever, and like whatever I'm dealing with, like as long as you get your work done, like, I'll put you on whatever responsibilities I need of you. But he was so awesome in that regard. And I try to take that a little bit too, of like, there's nothing that we deal with on a day-to-day basis where we gotta, protect it. It's not extremely confidential how we operate, how I coordinate travel or any of those pieces. Like, but with that said, it's still part of the job. And I think the other things too, I'm trying to remember the original question, to be honest with you.
Just like your day to day like
Yeah.
responsibility. I was gonna say, are you now in charge of, because the Kansas City Chiefs have football managers, right?
No.
So
There's no.
who takes? Okay, so explain to me all those jobs that you did for the Hawkeyes, and
Yeah.
what were there, 9 or 10 of you every
Yeah,
season or
usually
whatever?
10 to 12, something like that. Yeah.
Who sets up the bags? Sets up, like, who does all of those manager responsibilities for an NFL team?
Yeah, I mean, typically full-time staff for the
Really?
most part. Now, I mean, obviously a lot of those responsibilities are given to the younger full-time staff
Yeah.
members. Some departments are fortunate enough to have seasonal interns,
Okay.
right? We were fortunate enough to be able to bring on a seasonal intern. I think it was 2 years ago. So we created that position, which helped us, tremendously. And, as I was here for X number of years, my responsibilities continue to grow. And so then you have, someone else who's able to kind of help you with the other things that you were still doing while your plate's being filled. So
Yeah.
I think that definitely helped. But even like coming into the program, you may or may not remember me even at Iowa, like spotting the ball at practice, right? So
Yeah, like it's team period, and you're literally the referee that's spotting it. Like, you're
yeah,
grabbing it, putting it down, running it. If it's wet, you got the towel, you're drying it off. Like,
yeah.
I'm telling you, these guys do everything. For people listening, they do everything.
So when I came into Kansas City, one of the questions that was asked by Mitch of me was, "How do you feel about spotting the ball at practice?"
And you're like, "Fuck yeah, dude!
And I'm like,
I got it."
sign me up, man. Absolutely. Like, I get to stand like next to coach, like all practice,
Yeah.
get to like, be a part of that process of like just being on the field. Like, and quite honestly, that's a lot of like why I got into this. Like, I got into this because I love football. I love the game. Like,
Yeah, the
you
action.
know, and I felt like, those responsibilities that bring me closer to the game, like that's why I do this. So I put in all those hours, right? So that was something to me, like obviously it was a no-brainer, but kind of a cool, correlation. I was literally doing that at Iowa, and then
Yeah.
come to Kansas City, and like longtime equipment manager Alan Wright, he was ready to give up those responsibilities. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Straight out of college, like sign me
Yeah.
up.
Let me get my cleats on.
That's it.
You haven't seen speed from a staff member like this.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like,
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. It really is what it's all about. Like, the more action you can be a part of, like if you're not Josie Jewell or Patrick Mahomes and you're like the spotlight, then like I feel like a lot of the reason that a lot of people in all the different staff roles or Even like as a specialist, you're just like, how can I get more action? I've said it a million times on this podcast, but like, man, like when my sort of responsibility as a snapper was kind of taken care of, and I knew what I was doing, and I didn't have to just spend all 2 hours practicing snapping later on in my career. I was like, KF, let me get in on that kickoff team, that kick,
Yeah.
that scout kick team. And of course, he wouldn't let me do it, but I just wanted to be closer to the action, right? And so that's sick that you got to be in there. You're spotting it, and Mahomes is literally walking up to the ball, and obviously Pat is like, he's become this like superstar over this
Yeah.
run of 5-6 years. I guess in 2019, maybe he hadn't ascended quite to the level he is now, but like
Yeah.
still a pretty big star in the NFL. What was it? Is it like? What was it like being around him, Kelsey? I mean,
Yeah.
all of the characters that have been in Kansas City, this past half decade.
Yeah, I think when you've been around it enough, you kind of understand they're just like
Yeah.
all of us. Like they're human, like, but they're just really good at football.
Yeah.
And so to me, like those guys were awesome to be around, like super cool, super appreciative of understanding everyone's roles, especially within the organization. Obviously, they are living examples of the culture that Coach Reed has built here, right? So, making sure that everyone is, bought in really to what we're about. And these guys just love football too at the end of the day. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that, even our scouts here look for is like, do you love the game of football? Like things are going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, but
They got to look at Iowa City more. There's not enough Hawkeyes on the Chiefs.
and you know what? I couldn't disagree. I couldn't agree more. I think that there's definitely, we've had Ben Neiman, we've had Anthony Hitchens.
There's
We've
been a
had some
few, but
Hawkeyes come
like,
through.
man, not
I know.
enough.
I know. Trust me. I've definitely expressed my concern about that, the lack of Hawkeyes on this roster, but
They love football over there in Iowa City.
they do. There's something about it, but no, all those guys, they're awesome to work with, and there's you want to talk about leadership, bringing the locker room along. It's just different when you got guys in the locker room that are the living examples of you can be really good at football, and you can also focus in and keep the main thing. You don't have to be all out here and have all these distractions.
I have a sort of a dumb question, but
no dumb questions here.
Yeah, that's right.
So like we finish a game at Iowa, right? And we walk out of the locker, you get showered, you walk out, and there's like Chick-fil-A sitting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
To take on the bus. Is it like the same in the NFL? Like you guys got catered stuff just waiting for the guys, but it's better than Chick-fil-A though.
I mean, guys love Chick-fil-A, man.
I was gonna say, we on Chick-fil-A right now.
So we will have Chick-fil-A on the plane wherever we go on the road. So if we're playing on Sunday, we're getting it on Saturday. We're loading up on the plane, and you want crispy grilled nuggets, like you're gonna have a little bit of that.
Love that.
So that's where it kind of starts. But no, like even post-game meals, for example, like we'll try to find some kind of local vendor. And quite honestly, a lot of other teams use similar vendors.
Yeah.
That have just kind of like figured that niche out and work well with the stadium and all of that. But
I was gonna say there's a aspect to your gig that I kind of caught on to, because I would ever so often ask like Ben these questions too, because I was curious. Like there's sort of a blueprint that you guys run, and I'm sure you have like a file on your computer, like, hey, this is how we did it in Jacksonville, or this is how we did it this is how we do it when we go to Denver, and this is the vendor we use, and this is the bus company that we use, like all these different things, right? And then you kind of just go back to that, and like if you can copy and paste the next year when you go back there again, you're like, easy enough, right? So, and then like, and of course there's how many other teams that come into that city and are doing the same thing that year. So it's kind of like, is that sort of how you kind of infrastructure out the base of things, and then you figure out the details from there?
I mean, you're having conversations with counterparts. Hey, how was your stay here? Or how is the food here? We get feedback. We're all trying to provide the best experience that we can for our team. Right. And so we do have a lot of that, counterpart communication. And that's where it starts. Now, the other piece of it too is going out and seeing it. So I'll conduct site visits and other cities that either we haven't been to in a while, or there's a new property, available in a market, like go out, see it, meet the people. There's pieces of that too.
That's a fun part of the job.
It's it's good. I love traveling personally. So for me to be able to incorporate, travel with this role, I mean, it's awesome. I love it.
And you mentioned earlier in the show, Brazil.
Yes. Week 1.
I got questions about Brazil.
Yeah. Week 1. It's going to be, I mean, it's a lot of work, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, is there pressure? Do you feel like, there's a lot
Yes
riding
and
on this?
So the NFL it's technically like their,
Yeah.
game, so to speak. They help, coordinating the hotel agreements and, providing buses and trucks and like having local vendors vetted and all that stuff. So they help with that. But I mean, the thing that, most people don't think about, it's like, we're gonna have a travel party of like 180 people, passports, Brazilian visas, all those pieces for all those travel party members. Like that's a significant amount of time put into that. And you have the roster changing, which could literally change up until the week of the game. Like, you just never know.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's, oof.
I've had to take, so we played in Frankfurt 2 years ago. I had to take one of our players who was an international player to Barbados a couple weeks before our game to get his visa stamped out of the U.S. and then came back, and then we played in Minnesota that weekend. So I got back on Friday night, traveled with the team to Minnesota on Saturday. We played on Sunday, and then we came back. But,
Jesus Christ!
It's little things like that. I mean, everyone's situation's different too, especially when it comes to passports and visas and all that.
Does it ever happen where kind of similar, like starter players, like, what do you mean your passport's expired and we're going to Brazil next week? Like, do you have to like go like, hey, government, anyone who works here, like, we're the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to give us a passport right now?
So we do have we've built some rapport up with some passport agencies that if we needed to, if we really got into a pinch, would probably be able to help us with like a same day passport, for work related reasons. And they have those passport agencies. I mean, there's one in Chicago. I've had to take, a player that we claimed the week before our game in Mexico City in 2019, take him to Chicago, get him a same day passport, come back.
I just wanted to hear that they can get a passport to you quickly. They just refuse to. They just that's what I really wanted to hear.
If Patrick Mahomes, for some reason, his passport was expired, they would figure out a way, right? Like,
we always find a way, Tyler. Always. There's no excuses in this field. I can promise you that.
Absolutely.
I saw as much as they do these games, that would be so funny. It was like Tyreek Hill out, passport.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, expired passport. His groin is fine. His quads are
his
good.
Passport's not.
Passport. Yeah. The only last question I had was before I let G-Bone. I kind of let G-Bone finish it out because he's got the best questions. Like, what are the, it sounds like a dream job, right? But like, so did being a manager for the Iowa football team until those kids figure out, holy shit, I got to run around and sweat my ass off during camp and stuff. What are the challenges of this role? Like, what, you have, it's awesome. You get to travel, you get to do all these things, be around the team, all this stuff. What are the things that give you, you sit there and you're like, got to do this today. Like, is it that passport kind of stuff that's just like, I don't even know what you would call that, like logistical, but is that the stuff that's annoying, or is there other challenges?
Yeah, I think to me, the most challenging piece of this is balancing everything that's going on, the volume of work that's required to get done in this role. And our responsibilities, they're expansive. There's a lot going on that we need to, there's stuff that's happening presently, but there's also stuff that's, happening in the future that it requires a lot of time for us to put in too. So like, for example, like even this spring, like we had OTAs going on. So here in the building, we had renovations going on in our facility. I was visiting Sao Paulo to kind of lay the groundwork for that trip. That same exact week, the schedule was being released. So we were signing hotel contracts and buses and truck companies and working with the airlines, just trying to reach agreements for the season as the schedule gets released. And then we're also preparing for training camp because we go up to St. Joseph, Missouri. Everyone reports on around July 20th, July 21st. So all of those pieces were happening at the same exact time. So it's like, let me put on my training camp hat. Let me put on my OTAs hat. Like, all those pieces happening. It's just the volume it's difficult to keep up with at times.
Just the ability to flex from one thing to another. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
It is. But I also say that like no day is the same either, which I love about the rule.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can sit. I mean, you're sitting there at your desk, so it's a little bit of a desk job, but it probably doesn't feel like a desk job.
No, I think the thing that I enjoy the most about this role is how many people I get to involve myself with.
Sure.
It's every single market that we go play in. I've got connections in all of those cities. It's everyone in the organization. And, even with this role in particular, it's kind of a crossover between football and business. So like I interact with the business side of the organization almost just as much as the football side.
Yeah, you have to.
It's kind of a liaison of sorts for the football side into business. So I interact with so many people in the organization, and that's what I love. Yeah. I love working with people. So the more that I can be away from my desk, now obviously there's responsibilities I got to get done at my desk and my inbox and all that stuff, staying up to speed there. But working with people, that's what I love to do, and that's what this job keeps me doing.
Good for you. I fucking hate people. Grant, what do you got?
So a lot of my questions were Brazil based, I'll be honest, but I got some other ones here. So when it comes to ops and like being a manager or whichever side of the college or pro you want to take it, I really like coaching trees. Are there like operation trees? Like it's like, oh, if you come from Brock's operation tree, everyone knows these guys are the best.
Well, I mean, Schneebs came on after you did. You had to add some hand and be like, yeah, Schneebs is great. Let's bring him in.
I mean, Schneebs is the man. Like if there was one guy I wanted to like bring on and like do this with, it was him for sure. And it was our rapport that we built and, at Iowa, obviously. But he had a whole career of himself even before he came to Kansas City. Like he went to Missouri Southern and was their director of operations.
Wow.
And then went to Memphis and elevated himself, became the director of operations at Memphis.
Damn.
So, I mean, he understands operations. It was just really a matter of him coming in and understanding the Kansas City way. Right.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say there's necessarily like coaching trees. I mean, it's really hard to get positions, in what we do, right? So I think the opportunities are limited. People that have had an impact on the organization from within these roles, they're allowed to bring bring assistants in that they've heard of or, give people opportunities. But to like really branch out, amongst other organizations as well, it's really difficult to find that.
Sure.
And you also have like, people that get out of this. I mean, it's not just competitive, but like it's very demanding. These roles are very demanding, and like some people find other opportunities outside of football to go pursue, and that is what it is. But right now I love this. I love this gig. Sure. I couldn't ask for much more in this role, but I don't necessarily. I can't think of any coaching, any operations trees, so to speak.
No, that's totally fair. That's okay. And then I'm curious. So you mentioned Chick-fil-A. They get Saturdays or wherever you're traveling. They get all that. Who gets the points for all the sandwiches? You taking all those home?
No, I don't have
5,000 points every week.
No, it's all done on the credit card, the company card, so they get American Express points. I'll say that. But
okay, so that makes sense.
You motherfucker! You asked the best question.
It's a legit question.
I was literally just talking about this with Andrew today because he did order Chick-fil-A when he was working in Memphis, and that was one of the things he was like, "Dude, these points are going to go to waste if no one's utilizing them." So he has a pretty nice stash, I think, of Chick-fil-A points for us to maybe go grab breakfast tomorrow, or
even if it's on the company card, like they have to give you a receipt. Like you can dial those in, man. You can be eating free for the rest of your life.
This is a good point. These are things that people don't think of.
They don't. I certainly was not going to think of it that way.
Perks of the job, people would say.
You got all this, but retirement. Don't even worry about it. You get all the Chick-fil-A sandwiches you want.
I'd retire on Chick-fil-A points. I don't know about you guys, but
I would.
Absolutely.
That's spicy, dude. Unbelievable. And I'm also curious, being in Kansas City, I just want to hear all of your Kansas City barbecue opinions. If you have a favorite spot, like what do you think of it? Is it overrated, underrated? I just want to talk a little barbecue with you for a
Yeah. I love the menu at Q39.
Okay.
Their burn ends are some of the best I've had in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
I just like, what you can do with their menu. There's a lot of stuff going on. So you can have a different experience at Q39. You don't have to get the same thing, right? I think other places, like if you're looking for something quick, Joe's, Kansas City, they've got like great sandwiches. The Z-Man is kind of their staple. That's a great lunch spot to me.
Sure.
Just get a Z-Man and some fries.
Yeah.
Jack Stack is another good place. Always a quality experience at Jack Stack. You know what you're getting when you walk in there. But I'd say those are probably the top 3 and most memorable barbecue places that I can think of in Kansas City. But Q39, even when a guy comes in, for example, to visit, whether it be a free agent or, whatever it may be, we're trying to hook up some Q39. We want to treat our guys right here. So Q39 is usually the way we go.
No, good. Yeah, I live in Texas, so I moved here recently, so I've been on like a little barbecue tour, and I've had some guys who are from the Kansas City area, and they're like, "You got to come out." They talk about Joe's all the time. They're like, "This is different styles." So trying to like on my I might have to start like a side project or just like here's Grant's barbecue tour, figuring it all out. But
give it a shot, man. I love some of the best barbecue that I've had are those that compete. The competitive barbecue group. So like Bramley Barbecue, you remember Tyler? Like
yeah.
They would come in and they would literally smoke everything in Kinnick Stadium, put on a great meal for us. That was some of the best barbecue I could think of. But
that was great.
When you're competing, man, competition breeds excellence.
You're right.
We were told that all the time, and I think competition barbecue is some of the best too. Underrated.
Speaking of competition, the Denver Broncos are going to be in Kansas City this year on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, man. Merry Christmas.
It is. I'm already dreading it. I'm going to be honest. The Broncos and Christmas have gone horribly.
The Broncos are supposed to be good this year.
I think we are going to be good this year. But I'm following our history of Christmas and also the Chiefs, and it's been difficult.
It's a lump of coal for the Broncos this year.
Against Denver, played some great games against Denver last year.
Yeah, they're always great for you. Yeah. I know. I know they're.
We won't talk about Week 18 last year. That was
did Denver finally get them?
People forget we won in our last one against the Chiefs, but
wow,
it's
incredible.
It was great battle, but no, that's because like we had the disaster against like the 3-win Patriots, just to stay in playoff contention on Christmas Eve, and then Baker shows up like 3 days into being a Ram and drops a 60 piece on us in the middle of Christmas.
You can't make it up.
I'm sure you'll have a great Christmas working it though.
I hope to have a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it'll be.
We played in Pittsburgh last year, and the outcome was good for us there. But
you bring the fam to those, or is it?
What's that?
You bring the whole family?
No. We were focused. We were locked in.
We were dialed.
We said, "Hey, we'll celebrate Christmas when we get back."
Sure.
Right. We're gonna fucking celebrate, okay? But we got a business trip first. All right.
See there? Now we're talking.
We got a couple things back in 2002. All right, these guys didn't give a shit about Christmas. Okay. Brock, man, it was fun to catch up in here. I mean, I didn't like a lot of this stuff has been stuff on my mind just on your guys' side of things for a long, long time. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast so much, man.
No, I appreciate you guys taking the time, and obviously gonna be tuned in to future episodes here.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never dialed into a few, some of the like the one episode 100, 200, 300, we've had like Drew Tate, Greenway, like I said, 600 was Kading. So there's some good ones. I imagine if you just search like our most popular, most viewed videos on YouTube, the best episodes will come up. Personal favorite of mine is the Paulsons, episode 88.
Dude, I love those guys.
Yeah, so which by the way, they're like shredded now and they do like Ragbri and
really,
it's awesome. What? It's crazy. We need to have them back on, honestly. But I know everybody will have enjoyed the episode with Brock today. Especially if you're a Chief fan, which I know there's a lot of crossover there since the Iowans don't have a specific team to root for. Again, Brock, thank you for coming on. We'll be back again next week with somebody, maybe not, maybe just me and Kevin. Maybe Kevin will show up. Who knows? We'll see you then. Until then, peace.